Crit status active. Orbital status standby.
What is up, Guardians? This is Cosmodrome Radio, broadcasting all the way from here, all the way to where? How many signals do we have at this point? Jesus Christ! I guess we're
going to Europa, man.
Oh yeah, we go to Europa. I feel like we go to Europa too. Yeah, we go over to Europa too. Varric listen to us. Varric listen to us.
Yeah, no. Oh yeah, no. Varric definitely listens to us with the.
He's got a radio. That little igloo.
Sure.
Listen to
He's
us.
got a radio. Yeah.
So, yeah, most definitely.
LC Bray's listening out here.
I hope so. But it's cool. All those freaking Exo Stranger OnlyFans accounts are probably like super excited now. But this is the podcast all about Destiny 2 and all the great things about it. Don't forget that you can listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I legit had somebody ask me, "Hey, where can I listen to the podcast at?" I'm like,
yeah, you can.
Here's
where
a list.
Can't you listen? It's like, where can't you listen to the podcast?
Right, like we're everywhere, dog. So it's like focus up, listen to us. We love the feedback. You can rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You just shout us out. Follow us on Twitter. That's where we hear all the latest news. We retweet the twab every day, every Thursday. So just be down for that. And just interact with us, have a good time. We're gonna be doing some giveaways for our stickers soon. We're gonna be opening up our Discord soon. So just get ready for that and get ready for some more fun. Probably put them on sale soon once I get enough of them. So just get ready for all that fun shit. My name is Panda the Paladin. To my left, we have my fellow Titan, the just all around good fella. Man, just an all around good fella. Runs into danger a little too much sometimes, but you know what? We still love them, but that's okay. Toll, how you doing this evening?
Doing great. Borealis is the best sniper, hands down.
Oh my god!
No, you cannot. I know it's a meme, but
my meme. I'm making it work. I'm working on the hashtag.
As two people, as me and Falcon, who both love snipers and PvP, you're breaking our hearts.
I know, but I'm just trying to make it a thing.
And I don't know if I saw you get a kill with it.
I got 2 kills with it, 2 headshots.
My bad. I'm
Jesus.
sorry.
I got two that one match, and I was like, for someone who doesn't.
Wait, you actually went to PvP with Borealis?
Yes.
Oh my land.
I might have to use it just to meme with you, to see it. I'll just unironically support you.
Oh my gosh.
if they made the ionic return actually worth something.
Oh, yeah. But see, they even talked about in the podcast, which we're going to get to, that ionic traces are hard enough to proc in PvP. So why would you want more of the struggle in PvP?
It's I'm trying to find a funny gun I can meme with and make it my niche. And right now, it's Borealis. I might find another gun. I might just switch to Cerberus +1 again.
Nah, man, sweet business.
That's a good one. That's not even a meme. That's a good weapon.
Cerberus 1 actually. I'm actually going to talk about Cerberus 1 a little bit. So, because of what's been happening recently. So, you should meme with sweet business. So that should be your meme. It's just sweet business.
You get mad at me every time I use it. So no,
business people.
No. Because here's the thing: you randomly will just go, "Hey, let me use sweet business in a raid," and I'm like, "Bro, what the fuck?"
And you're like, "Why are you using that?"
Fair.
The reason I used it was I was on my hunter during Kingsfall in Golgoroth, and I was taking gaze, and I couldn't shoot the poison orbs fast enough.
You were kidnapping gaze? Oh my god,
that's so cool.
But I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna throw bullets and hope it works. And
fair. I was thinking about, since we ran Deepstone, about how we really should start experimenting with other weapons, because I can't imagine linear is going to be the dominant damage type for much longer.
I feel like we're going to end up just going back to the
double slugs.
Double slugs or Izanagi's.
Yeah.
But no, speaking of which, my favorite hunter turned warlock, because they out here thinking they slick. Falcon, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm coping with the end of season withdrawals, so I switched to my warlock, and I've been having a really good time.
All right,
I went back to my old pleasure of Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, I've been playing Minecraft to take a break like that when I'll burn myself.
Playing a little Apex too.
I forget how salty I get with that game. Like, I just play Dead by Daylight to do some dailies, and it's just, I don't like that.
Let's dig into some stuff that we do like, because over the weekend, or over like last week rather, that Massive Breakdowns Network PvE podcast had some of the Bungie devs on from the weapons team. Chris Proctor and Vivian Bex came on, and they talked about a couple different things that were going on in the game. And we're gonna like shoot through it. We're not gonna like quote the whole 2 hours. If you want to go back and listen to that podcast, we definitely recommend them as well as our show.
Go.
So,
yeah,
like,
it was
a great listen. Oh yeah,
like it was a great conversation, like stuff going on. But we still want to talk about it and give our thoughts. So we're gonna like go through it, like the whole list of different things, and because there was a lot of great stuff going on. The first thing that I really want to touch on that was super imperative, that kind of like kept being brought up as the whole conversation, like the whole episode was a thing, was the idea of just elemental verbiage in perks, and try to fix older weapons and grandfather them into the new perk, like new verbs and whatnot, like Jolt and Incandescent and stuff like that, and Scorch. Like there was different conversations in regards to things like Sunshine,
Scorch,
and things of that nature, like things that give burn rather than scorch and that kind of thing. I loved that conversation, because from what I was hearing from Vivian specifically was just this desire to make more, but then Chris was like, we also want to give things sort of their own standing. Like one example that was made was, we want to give a lot of elemental weapons their ability to thrive in these new verbs, but we still want some things to be separate. Like, for instance, we don't want Telesto to start suppressing people.
Which made total sense, because like they were saying, like those weapons exist essentially on their own. Like they don't need those weapon archetypes.
Can I make a weird statement? I think that Merciless should get Incandescent.
Yes.
See, I worry about that, because I randomly saw Merciless last week at Trials, and Merciless is randomly like a really silent main ingredient, like a sleeper main ingredient kind of thing, because you barely hear the charge up, and it's actually coming back as a sleeper hit randomly, and it kind of freaked me out, because I'm like, oh, you're running Merciless, I ain't worried about you, and it kept killing me, and I was like, oh, that's a problem. So
yeah, it's pretty
like
good
if you put it on Jotun, which I was honestly like, why would you put it on Jotun?
Because the burn.
Right. That makes sense. But why not add it to Merciless?
I mean, it's possible. It could be good.
Because I haven't seen or heard of Merciless since people. When did they buff that? Like,
it's just not a best in class. Ago? Like, why would you use it unless you could literally just go farm a main ingredient, or like what's the fusion from the raid this season? The King's Fall fusion. Meet his reckoning.
Your main ingredient that just needs a spread nerf, and it'd be fine.
Main ingredient overall doesn't need. It needs a spread nerf. It needs a damage nerf. It needs like
not the main ingredient.
I need pellets reworked, everything. Oh yeah, might as reckoning. Yeah.
Just if everything else about it's fine. Just increase the spread cone.
Yeah.
By
or just nerf under pressure. Really, that's the only issue.
Right, but no, that was that whole thing about elemental perks, and they talked about just this desire to make things very in depth and things of that nature. I thought that was super cool, and we'll touch on it more as the conversation goes on. But the other big thing that apparently had the whole Destiny community on fire the past couple days, and even had Mercules chime in on later after the fact, was that there was talk about origin traits. And the thing, like, the idea of wanting to develop more origin traits, even go back and revisit some origin traits, like how they did with Gambit and Iron Banner, and make them relevant across the entire game, because they're very much like the regular Foundry perks. They did very well with. They were very well received. They were comfortable with how those were done, but then they missed the mark on a couple and were able to revisit those and tweak them as time goes on, and they like that flexibility. But then there was the question of, do you want to introduce more, like a Tex Mechanica hip fire or like a Black Armory? And Chris Proctor was like, okay, if there was one in Foundry you guys would want, what would you want? Black Armory.
There's no thoughts. The whole community.
Give me a blast furnace, give me a hammerhead, and I will literally
organ, like all that fun.
I will pay.
Yeah.
Like, I'll pay 30.
And the one thing that Chris Proctor and also Mercury said is, if there is a narrative reason for things like the Save 14 weapons from Season of the Dawn, like we're also brought in conversation, or even the Ada, like a story beat. There's like a Save story beat or an Ada story beat that like gives garnishment to the idea of let's bring in those old weapons. You're gonna see them, and then like I even think one of them even referenced the Seven Seraph weapons.
Yep.
So like they're like, yo, and there's a I believe Chris Parker said Rasputin, and there's a reason to visit that. We will, and I like that thought process. Yeah, like because if we get Rasputin season 19, we roll up with Seven Seraph weapons or freaking Icleos weapons, and you see like an Icleos
Warmind cell builds. Here we come,
bro. If randomly all next season is just the return of Warmind cells, I'm gonna be so annoyed. I'll be
happy. I wasn't around for that. I didn't get to like.
They were such like a great concept. Like I'm so sad they like hit and then didn't hit, because like they were like the first non-damage type of DPS, which I think is so interesting.
I think the issue at hand though was that like they got too out of hand, where it was like
they were nuts.
You could literally just shoot one and it would kill like a whole like chunk of ads. Or you could just like carry a Warmind cell and protect yourself. Like you had too much power with them. That's why you saw a whole legion of mods fall from grace because they're just like overpowered. That's why I'll freaking I forget like the solo player for so long that like did all the solo content. He would solo grandmasters and stuff like that, and solo raids. He would use Warmind cells as his base, esoteric. And he would use Warmind cells. I remember he soloed the entrance to Master Vogue with Warmind cells and Shadow Hunter, and would just run around and was doing everything with Warmind cells. So it's like that's why you saw them fall from grace, because they were that powerful.
Yeah, they were so good.
And like
I love that season.
I saw a video of someone throwing their
the arc one. I think you could pick up and throw.
Yep.
Yeah, you can pick it up and throw, but the Calling the Storm, they threw that on it and picked it up.
Mm-hmm. So you can do some dirty shit with that shit. Like just walk around with a fucking Warmind cell with a giant lightning rod.
Pick it up and walk around. And it's like
so, and then and the next thing was like that they started to talk about that Chris Parker got into was the need to make adept weapons in like raids and content worth it. And what really bugged me in that, like there was one of the I believe it was either Say or one of the others who asked him if you could go back in time and remove enhanced traits from base craftable weapons, would you? And Proctor said no, and I'm like, why?
Why? Like
that's the core concept of crafting in like every game though, is to like be able to craft something that's like really powerful. I think the issue is that they just didn't have anything to counteract the void that it created, and I think that's finally why they're trying to like backpedal.
Well, and my biggest thing was
that makes sense.
You could have corrected, like it makes perfect sense. But my thing is, you could have course corrected everything if you just didn't make raid weapons craftable and left them to be the upper echelon of weapons that you worked your butt off for. Because you could see like your like Dares of Eternity weapons be craftable. You see like season weapons be craftable, be super powerful. But the raid, the end game thing that you bust your ass for, those weapons you will still have to grind for, because you're gonna see here in a minute when the Lightfall raid comes out with the ones that
I'm gonna go nuts on Deepstone.
Oh, you know, like next season, Deepstone's about to get
going nuts. Like,
butt smacked every 5 seconds.
Literally,
but like the Lightfall raid is about to get freaking demolished, and then no one's gonna touch it. Look what happened to Val. Val is barely touched. No one cares anymore, and it sucks.
Literally, only good gun. There's only a few good raid weapons that you could craft. The Cataclysmic was one. Literally, the next season, Cataclysmic gets yoinked by
Taipan.
No, that's 2 seasons later. 2 seasons.
You know what? I'm gonna make a statement that I think I was thinking about.
And then Taipan came out and yoinked it, and it's like there's no point unless you like going for a submission or the pulse rifle, which is actually fantastic. You should go for that.
Yes.
I think Destiny needs to move away from chasing I think chasing the perfect role and weapon crafting fit perfectly in Destiny. I think the issue is that that's like the only thing you can chase in game. Like you don't really need outrageous stats to like be a competitor late game. Like you do. Like don't get me wrong. Like you need good stats, but like there's like nothing to chase besides like master dungeons, and master dungeons aren't even that fun to chase because now you can't even craft like dungeon weapons. So like where's the trade-off? Like
Right.
I don't know.
I don't want dungeon weapons being craftable ever.
I do too. Oh, I want them to be craftable.
I don't.
I don't want dungeon or raid weapons to be craftable, but here like we're looking at that future and it sucks. And one thing that even Proctor touched on was we're gonna see a future here in a minute where you're gonna see things like enhanced weapons enhanced perks rolling on guns. And what's gonna piss a lot of people off here in a minute was Proctor mentioned enhanced perks on trials weapons. And
yes.
And then there's Falcon. I'm over here like, yo,
okay,
that's gonna piss a lot of people off.
Okay,
yeah, I'm one of them.
You can't like. I understand making the game accessible for everybody. I think accessibility is a great thing. I think the problem is that they still haven't fleshed out like a good trial system where everybody can play it, everybody can win. I think everybody, no matter what skill level, should be able to go flawless at some degree. So I don't think it's an issue that things will have enhanced perks. They just need to make sure everybody can go flawless.
See, we're gonna talk about that. If we have time at the end of the show, I want to because it was Darkside Royalty that made a video that got under my skin about trials and skill based matchmaking. So if we have enough time at the end of the podcast, we're gonna talk about that. But we might even like do it as like a quote unquote community question, but just make it about that. Sure. But we'll get to that in a second. So then there was the weapon mods that were touched on a little bit because there was talk about how Bungie has mentioned they want to roll in things like Rampage spec and things of that nature into guns. So they're like, yo, we do have plans to work on mods and like mod acquiring post Lightfall, but it's not gonna happen anytime soon. And my brain just goes, oh, so y'all just legit just don't give a fuck about your new player base. Okay, great. Like, I don't want to say that, but like it really feels as if
what do we want Destiny to be though? Like an MMORPG or just like a single shooter game? But like an MMORPG game is about chasing end game content. Like I understand that everybody should be able to do that content, but like I think World of Warcraft is maybe one of the best. Or Final Fantasy, honestly, is probably the best.
Final Fantasy 14 is probably the best one to handle everything.
The best one to ever base your stuff off of. And like there's endgame content that's accessible for everybody. And there's still things to chase and everybody can do it. But like those like I don't know, like there's like a certain level of because I hate gatekeeping. Like I think it's like one of the worst things ever. Like I think the power level needs to go. Honestly, there's the issue. Power level needs to go.
I want to talk about that in another episode. I want
to dive more into that also because I feel like it goes to the conversation of difficulty versus high level players and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a high grade topic. So from there was the discussion of divinity and the conversation of debuff weapons and things of that nature. And I really enjoyed the conversation they had where it was like you could tell that Salt the Grandma had no intention with this. Like there was no mention of it. They had because from what they described, it takes like multiple months to work on a season.
Oh yeah.
They said they started working on the div nerf like at the end of development for season 18, which probably means they were looking at this in like June or like May. And no one knew about it. So, or like even earlier. So it's like they were even fiddling with ideas of like having the cage be there and no debuff. They were looking at different things of that nature. They were looking at even changing the weapon to void because to match the whole weaken effect verb. But then they decided just to grandfather weaken in with it. And I really enjoyed that conversation because it really felt like they wanted to maintain the relevance of the gun without fully removing it from the totem pole, as it were. And I really enjoyed that because it just really felt like they decided to announce a nerf at the wrong time, and I felt bad for it.
Yeah.
So to hear the development kind of made me feel better about it. I don't know how like, and what we very much learned from this conversation is that building an exotic costs a lot of money.
Yeah. I mean, I never
it's
doubted
an expensive
that
piece, and so I'm sitting here like, the one that we get in the season pass, I'm okay with spending $10 for.
Oh yeah, it funds you
Except for the
essentially.
Trespasser, I'm sorry, I wasn't happy with the Trespasser.
Hey, Trespasser is amazing, but what I even loved, like, which it was talked about more at the end of the show, but I'll touch on it here, was Vivian dove into the development of Delicate Tube, and because one of the community questions was, how do you feel about the fact of certain exotics that do better in one sandbox but not the other? Case in point of Delicate Tube, where it's like really shining in PvE because of ionic traces, like Toll was talking about, but in PvP you ain't getting an ionic trace for shit. But with there, Vivi was like, sometimes you have to start in one sandbox and grow in one sandbox before you can go grow in like grow into another. And I really enjoyed that because it shows the concept of they want to revisit the idea of it thriving in PvP later, because ionic traces aren't there yet. And there's a chance for the meta to evolve around Delicate Tube later on. Which I thought was really cool.
It's like a whole nother, like, there's already elemental wells and there's already the orbs. So like ionic traces just add like a third layer, because you could have elemental traces and ionic traces running at the same time, and plus have orbs dropping. Like, oh my god, can you imagine have all those things flying out at the same time? Like, I can't even imagine what it's like.
There was fear that elemental wells was the reason why some people were crashing on the day one raid for Vow. So imagine the idea.
I do remember that actually. Yeah.
That would just be a handful in its own right.
Oh my god, I can't even imagine.
And the next thing that really hit that was pretty funny was Proctor talked about how the devs really don't like how damage stacking works right now in content, and I was cracking up.
I mean, I can agree with them on that point. It just it needs to be more consistent.
Well, and like, because right now it's a multiplicative system versus an additive system, which is what Proctor would like to see it be an additive system, because
that would make a lot more sense.
Because right now you have like Weapons of Light, you have Font of Might, you have you have all these different things playing a factor. Then you have debuffs that go into the mix. So all these different things like adding damage that nerfing an enemy all on top of each other. It's a hard balancing act for them that makes it hectic. So Proctor's like, it'd make a lot more sense for it to be additive versus multiplicative. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like, I can see it, but it'd be a hard nerf for a lot of people. And you're definitely gonna see a lot of backlash, possibly even for like severe casual players who think like all of their buffs are being slaughtered and they have to work harder
it's basically going from 400 to 300%. Not that bad.
That was the one. Yeah, that was the one thing that Proctor said. He wants to see 100 times 200 be lower, instead of it being 100 times 200. It's 100 plus 200, and you actually see that little bit of a mix played correctly.
And then it's like you also have to factor in weapon damage perks like Focus Fury, Firing Line, Vorpal.
Yeah, it's a whole flipping mess.
Damage buffs, buffs and debuffs are nuts. Like playing Final Fantasy and World of Warcraft, like I can't even 20 plus debuffs and buffs going on at the same time. Like I can't even imagine what it's like to run it on a system like Destiny.
It sets the precedent of, if this debuff is higher than that one, the higher one takes over.
Yeah. Versus now they're trying to make it so all of them kind of thrive, especially with debuffs, because they wanted to fix that with Divinity, where you can have the div cage and the 15%, but then have the tether come in. And that was one thing that Proctor said they tested multiple times to make sure it actually works properly, because that way you can still kind of have OG div, but have hunters play a role in that a little bit, which that was kind of cool to see. From there, I like that they talked about that how enhanced incandescent isn't actually working properly. Like that they want it, because apparently it should be making more big booms. It's only making some big booms because of
how
a bug.
Quicksilver Storm rocket, it's supposedly an arc rocket, but that's also a bug.
I was kind of disappointed about that because like the PvE hosts were super excited about that. Proctor goes, so that's a bug, and I'm like, bro, like that'd be so cool.
It's but it's a primary, like it's a kinetic slot, like it shouldn't do that.
Yeah, but it was still.
So now this opens up the door for toll theory. So put your tinfoil hat on for a second.
Oh Jesus!
Yep.
So we know that they want to improve the kinetic slot. What if they
that
added
was the next thing they talked about? Yeah, they want to improve kinetics overall, make them actually be
so this is like
viable overall.
What if they added like a kinetic shield slot?
Like that's happening in Lightfall, right? They said they're going to rework kinetic in Lightfall.
Yeah. They're working to make kinetic weapons actually matter and actually still play into the fantasy element. I'm saying
we should have a kinetic weapon shields. So like it's a gray shield that like you have to shoot with a kinetic weapon.
I mean, I still think stasis doesn't matter, and that's like a
we should have stasis shields. And Strand come. I don't think we should get guns as Strand other than exotics. Because if it's something that we made ourselves,
another weapon type, it wouldn't make sense that there's Strand weapons unless we craft exotics.
Stasis guns make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So I say, give us stasis shields, please.
We have stasis shields. We just don't have stasis shields for like us. Like there's stasis shields
talk about for enemies.
Well, no, there are if you do
Lightfall,
the corrupted GM, or if you did the Scorn Lair GM when it was in play on the Tangled Shore, all of those Scorn had stasis shields, and it was a nightmare.
I don't remember that.
It was rough.
I played that strike. Maybe I just was doing it and I didn't even realize it.
Maybe it was just stasis damage. I could be wrong, but if those had stasis shields, that's horrifying. But the next thing that they talked about was more like making synergy perks like Incandescent have a role. They did say straight up, because someone asked about it, are we ever going to see the mixing of verbs and perks like Jolt and Incandescent work together? They're like, no, we're not worried about that right now. The focus is giving these perks identity. And I like they actually touched on Repulsor Brace, because while Repulsor Brace is the only void-centric mod in the verb category right now, they wanted to sort of work on building it more and working on building it up like more in the future, to where we actually are going to see more perks like that in Lightfall, which that was pretty cool.
If I want a perk that gives a specific void gun volatile rounds, you do something, you get a kill, and it'll proc on the gun. You don't have to reload.
What do volatile rounds do again? I forget.
They make things volatile and explode. No, they just make things explode.
Okay, that's what I thought. I mean, that would make sense.
But it doesn't work. It doesn't. You don't extend the timer with the fragment that does that. It's just you get volatile rounds for this long on that gun, and only that gun.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense. I mean, I liked how they talked about how the reason like Incandescent and Bolt Shot exist are to like teach players like verbiage, like how they know like Bolt Shot applies Jolt, and then they see Jolt on their super and they're like, oh, I know how Jolt works, like I can incorporate this now. Like that makes sense. Like I didn't even know Repulsor Brace was honestly a thing until last season, and it's been out since Void 3.1, so 3.0. So
yep.
Right.
I tried testing with the perk, but it just wasn't working. I didn't understand how it worked, and when I did, it was
just
like
takes too much work, and like that's fine. Like I want perks to exist like that, but there's like no way to like learn they exist like that. Essentially, is what they were saying. Like they want players to like learn how those things work.
Right. And one thing they said was that like there hasn't really been a big Void season. Like there was Witch Queen and Season of the Risen, but Void 3.0, while it was introduced in that season, it wasn't a primary focus Solar God and Arc God. So in the future, like, because right now we have Scorch and Ignition, we have Amplified for Arc, and then we have Weakened for Void. So like halfway through the conversation, they were like, are any verbs off the table? And they said no, nothing has been like taken off. So like there is a possibility for a volatile rounds perk. That way it isn't just your grenade that can cause it. And like there's potential for that in the future. There could be a suppression perk that comes in the future. So
oh my god.
I think that'd be cool as like an exotic bow, kind of like how the Monarch works.
No,
like, it's just like you pull it out and it works like the Hunter.
Don't speak that into existence. Don't do it.
It works like the Hunter smoke bomb.
I get it. Though. Yeah, I get
and
it.
You shoot it, and it go.
What?
And then like shoot at the ground and make yourself invisible. And
oh god, that sounds horrifying.
Sounds terrible.
So when you're speaking blasphemy into existence, I need you to stop. So the next
I
thing
got some ideas.
Oh
my god.
So the next thing that was asked about was like the development of support weapons, i.e., will we see more things like Lumina in the future? And they're like, yo, we have ideas, nothing like concrete, but we're devoting resources and time to exploring that in the future. And I'm like, okay. And they even mentioned Strand with it. I'm like, oh, so that could be kind of cool. And they even talked about how one of the community questions was the development of Boots the Assembler with Lumina, and like that development was there. And they talked about how the different teams like were tagged in and like they're working together like to make that happen. So there definitely seems to be a desire to create more support weapons for support-based players, and I really enjoy that idea because some people do love just being the backup for their team. Some people love being that person.
I love that shit. I've always been a healer in every game I've ever played. If there's a healer class, so honestly, what I'm thinking is Strand's going to be like a defensive healing subclass. Is my weird take. Or like somehow they're gonna make supportive weapons just like you said.
Like the defensive, but like it also has the grapple hook, which makes it a movement as well.
Yeah, right. Which is interesting. Which could make sense. Like you grapple over to your player and then like somehow buff them with Strand.
Yeah,
what if it's like a movement offensive class in the sense of like it gives offensive buffs rather than defensive buffs,
which would be super cool.
So like you could rope in and buff your teammate, go for a shotgun kill. And watch as your teammate shoots a Gallahorn and blows himself up.
Oh God! This one's as Toll speaks more blasphemy. The devs had some news for Toll. The question was asked about the idea of developing weapons like Sweet Business, and then there's like the idea of buffing it or taking it past that in the future. And they said they couldn't really speak on it too much. But
I mean, what, 27 weapons? That's like a third of all exotic weapons.
So what you're saying is Borealis buff incoming, baby. Let's go. Borealis, best sniper in the game, hands down.
Oh my god.
I'll now be taking questions.
Jeez. they didn't even say, they haven't even said what 27 weapons are getting like changed yet. They didn't say buffs or nerfs.
We should take some time to speculate on which 27.
That's next season, right?
Yeah, that's next season. We can talk about that next week or something like that. We have 4 more weeks until the next season. So we got time.
I say we should do it tonight because you know darn well that Bungie is going to release it next week.
I will need to pull up a whole
let's talk about it when they release it then.
Right. That's so much to do.
Shoot,
oh my
that's
gosh.
So hard.
But no, they want to keep like unique exotics and like as the sandbox develops and bring back old faves that way they don't lose their identity. And then when they said this about they don't want old faves to lose their identity, my brain just went, "Hey yo, Proctor, Queenbreaker wants to talk to you."
like, okay, I have an idea of how to fix Queenbreakers. You're about to speak black. Yeah, no, this is a buff. So first, you make it a special weapon. You make it a sniper.
Nope. Sorry.
I don't know what is up with you with snipers right now, but I need you to calm down,
then you
sir.
And then you give it Volt Shot.
Oh!
But now you can change the zoom level, and it shoots like a sniper. So now you don't have the same problem as the other special linears do, but it can be a special weapon.
What? But it's just a Lorenzo and Arbalist, and then it's just a menace.
Yeah.
By changing it to a sniper, Okay.
So speaking of Cloud Strike, I do love that Proctor literally came in and said one of his goals was to legit create a sniper Thunderlord. I'm like, good job, Proctor. You did what you wanted to do when you came to Bungie.
Yeah.
That was kind of cool.
I give you a toll. That's a good idea.
It's see, my biggest thing with Queenbreaker is just buff it. Just buff it. Put like this whole.
Make it do more damage.
Make it do more damage. Make it be viable. Like, because one thing that they touched on was like what that Vivian talked about was the idea of giving things I like an identity in the sandbox. And Proctor said that they want to or they keep their eye on underused exotics my thing is, there's a difference between underused exotics and things that you just left in the back of the closet for like years. I.e. freaking what's that one Cabal Scout rifle that like everybody thought was that
Skyburner's Oath?
Yeah, Skyburner. Like up until Solar 3.0, nobody used Skyburner's Oath. And they even pointed it out in the twab where they're like, hey guys, we're gonna buff Skyburner's Oath. And everyone's like, no, you're not. Stop it. No. Like that's not real. It's like no, like legit, we're gonna buff Skyburner's Oath. They're like, no, you're not gonna do it. And then they did. And then they did it. They not only gave it Solar 3.0 like identity to it, they made it worth using in Cabal content. And it was like, what?
It like does more base damage now,
that's what should have gotten like Scorch to the bullets, but it doesn't give Scorch.
I thought it did.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, I thought it did. My bad.
Nope. They literally. Everyone thinks they buffed it in a way, but in reality, they actually nerfed it in a way more. They took away the idea of when you're just hip firing, it shoots fast. They took that away. So now the ADS speed and the hip fires, when you're ADS or hip fire, it's the same exact fire rate.
Huh. Weird.
It's dumb, and I hate it.
Well, thank you for your contribution to the conversation there. Very aggressive.
I'm sorry. I was one of the people who wanted it buffed, and they're like, "Nah,
we got you."
For me, but that does go into the conversation of like we gotta talk about this idea of like the difference between underused and then just forgotten in the back of your collections or in the back of your vault that you just never see used whatsoever. It feels very disingenuous of Proctor to be like, yo, we're taking it while we keep our eye on these things, when in reality, I don't think y'all do. Queenbreaker still is not been actually used.
I will give them the benefit of the doubt, even though they are a AAA multi-million-dollar company. I do think their development teams took a huge dumper in the transitions they've been taking, so they probably don't have enough staff to really roll out the things they promise, which they should then just stop promising things. But at the same time, like, we're people, and like I understand what that feels like. Right. So I don't know.
And like,
but at the same time, they're a AAA company, so
yeah. And one thing that I will always respect that they do is they're very conscientious of when it comes to them saying that like we're not going to promise anything, we're not going to speculate, we're not going to confirm anything when they do interviews. When they know in concrete they can speak on something, they're very firm about that.
They will, yeah.
And I appreciate that. So Bungie, if you want to come on Cosmodrome Radio, we understand you and we are here to talk. But like
we need to talk about buffing Borealis.
No, we need to talk about the horrendous treatment of Lord of Wolves.
That
was no. We've talked about that. But like they even mentioned that on the podcast where they talked about where they wanted to reforge its identity because of its like heavily used in PvP. And my thing was, were y'all even paying attention? Because it wasn't even being used. And then randomly it was picked back up and everyone thought it was a threat when it wasn't. You nerfed it multiple times. It wasn't being used. And then they're over like, we're going to make it a PvE shotgun. And we're like,
no one uses shotguns in PvE. You need to
yeah.
The problem is you'd literally have to overbuff them to make them worth it.
Right. Yeah. Like just because you
give
shotgun.
It's like if you could make it so one shot kills a red bar ad, it'd be worth it.
Right.
Like that's what we're talking about in high level. Like make it so there's a way that it can one shot those types of ads without like buffing it so it takes out bosses in low level content in one shot. We don't want that. That's not what we're talking about. We just want we want guns to be viable in GMs and in Legend and the higher level of Nightfalls. That's it.
Exactly. And like I even get their fear because the one thing they touched on in regards to the damage stacking, which confirmed my theory to an extent of they were afraid of Bonk Titans when it came to Solar, was they admitted that they do not like when damage stacking gets out of control, i.e. 1-2 punch, Synthoceps and shit like that. They confirmed it. So in general, it tells me that they are afraid to buff shotguns, but they want to give us unstoppable shotgun, or they want to make one of Wolves be a PvE shotgun. Like, make up your mind. Use clarity and tell us the truth.
Going on that note, if you don't want that, why did you give us a Titan Void aspect that boosts our melee damage?
Yeah.
While we have an overshield, which on Titan is extremely easy to do. Bubble.
I was gonna say Void Titan is still like really good in endgame PvE content.
Right. I'll say Void Titan is still one of the best things. Like, not only can you use things like Ursa, you finally apparently gave us the ability to use Second Chance in endgame content. Hell, you could just walk around with Crest of Alpha Loopy and be a good bubble Titan now. Like, you have a lot of options with Void Titan to make it viable in PvE, which is finally, like, I will say, if there is a winner of the 3.0 rework overall, when it came to the health of it and the balancing and the perfection, it is the Void Titan. Because the reason why I say that is because the reason why I say that is because they didn't nerf Bubble too hard. They nerfed Bubble a little bit. It was kind of annoying, but like, they didn't nerf it too hard. Suppressing and volatility, it was able to be taken from the Middle Tree Ursa class and given to everything in the Void Titan kit, and made it so viable. They gave us a new melee that can thrive in PvE content in a great way, be able to ricochet and basically acts as a second volatile grenade. It is very beneficial to that kit. So in every aspect and every balancing, Void Titan thrives above like everything. Like, the only other subclass and class that like hit the nail on the head for me that I can even think of is like Solar Warlock, and even then that would have had some issues too that people weren't really happy about.
I don't know. You're missing. I think you're missing the nail on the head. I think our Titans came out in a really good spot.
No. Because the issue with Arc Titan was it's too PvP centric. Because
I think it can work. I think it actually works in PvP.
I'm sorry, but the class I get dumped on the most now is Arc Titans. I think people are missing out if they're not using Arc Titans right now, because thrusters and shoulder strike combined is an absolute menace. And if you pair that PvP, I guess
that's what I'm saying. In PvP, you know, in PvP, Arc Titan A, according to trial stats, is the highest use thing. And
B, it's a menace.
I agree, though.
Yes. In PvE,
it feels like
lacking.
You know,
unless you're using
Storm Nades. Yeah, if you're using Storm Nades, that's the only thing that makes Arc Titan seem menacing. It's the same thing with Loreley with Solar Titan. Well, if you nerf the Storm Nades, which we'll get to in a second, the Arc Titan has nothing, because it's hard to build craft for it in terms of making an endgame build for, like, say, if you wanted to run Thunder Crash with Curious, it's harder to do because some of the fragments nerf your resilience. Some of the fragments nerf your recovery, which those are the two most important stats for a Titan. So if you're going in there wanting that versus Stasis and Void and Solar, or not really Solar doesn't have a plus like resilience the way it should. The only fragment in the Arc kit that is beneficial in a PvE standpoint is Spark of Resistance. And other than that, there's nothing that really benefits a Arc Titan in endgame, because Dado has a point. I'm gonna get fucking massacre for that. Dado has a point. Heart of Inmost Light is gonna catch a nerf at some point. And
what does Heart of Inmost Light even do? I forget.
Heart of Inmost Light helps recharge all of your abilities if you use one of your abilities. So
the easiest way to nerf Heart of Inmost Light is nerf the amount of time you have to regen your abilities.
Yeah,
say it's like 10 seconds now. Take it down to 5 seconds. Take it down half it.
Yeah, you half it. But like overall, but that's the biggest thing overall is that Arc Titan. If you remove the Heart of Inmost Light from the equation, Arc Titans have nothing. Like granted, they're like finally agreed with me that Ballistic Slam overall needs a buff.
You could make a pretty gnarly Jolt build with insurmountable skull front though. Like I can see that in my mind right now.
Insurmountable skull fort's like the one weird exception, but even at that point, there's still issues with it where it feels like you're just kind of sitting there and it's like, what do I want to run for arc?
Right.
I can put on Curious for damage, which I was at this point. I always, if I'm running arc, let's be honest here, I have Heart of Inmost Light, and then I hot swap right back to Heart of Inmost Light.
And even then, think of things like Eternal Warrior that didn't get a rework with Arc 3.0. There's things like a Cannon Point Break that was a brand new exotic. It does nothing. Like literally does nothing in the same. It was like they literally made a brand new arm ornament. That exotic does nothing. It's so depressing to see.
It's trash.
Is it actually trash? What is it supposed to be?
It's so bad.
Yeah, because what happened was when it first came out, it was disabled. Because when it first came out, it was disabled because that we didn't know why. It re-enabled itself because of one of the patches, and some people, including me and Toll, were testing it. And it, like when you wear the Point Break Cannon brace pre-nerf, you could make, like, even without charging the Thunderclap, you could one-shot even a pre-nerf Loreley helmet with the lightning strike that came from after the Thunderclap from the arms. So now the extra lightning strike does nothing. It barely even breaks your shield. So it's like the exotic has no viability from a melee standpoint, especially when you could just put on Skullfort, and if you really want to thunderclap things,
And I hate to interrupt you.
What?
But I would like to read off the perk for PCCB.
Yeah, go for it. Cannon Brace. Yeah, go for it.
Defeating targets with your Thunderclap melee restores melee energy. Targets near you when you use your Thunderclap suffer straight lightning strikes. Being amplified increases the range of these lightning strikes. But it's like they don't work.
And it doesn't
do enough damage.
It barely breaks a shield. Even if you charge the Thunderclap fully, it doesn't do enough damage that is worth it. So they basically gave you a cool arm ornament, and that's it. And it's like, it's very frustrating when you see it's the same thing with Solar, where you saw Loreley exist, you saw Phoenix Cradle get a rework a little bit and be viable in some content, and then you saw like Hallow Fireheart, nothing changed. You saw Kefri's Horn, which really isn't a Solar exotic but has Solar capabilities, nothing changed about it. They could have made it a whole Solar exotic if they wanted to. Like, there was nothing really done with Solar to make it viable other than, it heals people. And you can throw your hammer and hit things and create sunspots. Other than that, Solar 3.0 did nothing for Titans. And I will die on that hill. Same thing with Arc. Other than the grenade, in a PvE standpoint, unless this ballistics, because like if I'll reference the twab, I'll cut down to the arc section of the twab for the sake of the argument. If you look at that, it even talks about how that for in season 19, they're going to be buffing ballistic slam against PvE combatants by 16%. They were supposed to have buffed ballistic slam with Arc 3.0 already, and yet it's still not enough. So if this doesn't do it, you're never going to see ballistic slam or non-thunder crash, the other thunder super, ever be used in endgame PvE. You're never gonna see it because it's not worth it. It's not worth it versus Thunder Crash, where it's vital to hitting an enemy. Roaming supers aren't really used in PvE right now because their damage isn't worth it, and that sucks.
It's like it's like hammers. Hammers are fun.
They ain't doing shit.
Big hammer fun. Big hammer got it. It's fun to use against Rolk, though. I will say that.
Yeah, like even though they buffed Big Hammer and it has some volatility in PvE a little bit, in PvP a little bit. Like it can kill inside of a bubble, which is kind of fun sometimes. But like in general, it ain't doing nothing in PvE. It really ain't. So it's like they really need to think about this and stop being afraid to buff things and then nerf them after the fact if they were a problem. Because, like, because the
I just don't understand why they roll things back separately. Like, if they've obviously like shown us that they can do things separately, so just buff the shit out of things in PvE. Who cares if it's broken for a little bit? No one's gonna be mad at you.
Treat the sandboxes separately and then fix it after the fact.
Treat it like a sandbox. It's a sandbox. Mess around with it. Have fun.
You can build castles, and then you can take down the
you can take them down. Things change in sandboxes. If people bitch at you for that, they don't understand inherently what sandbox changes or buffs or nerfs entail. Like, things are always changing in a game like this. Like, if you have a problem with that, like, they really should. Like, good point. They really should just go for it. Like, there's no reason they shouldn't just go for it.
Right. Going back to the PvE interview, they talked about D1 exotics and what like in the development of those. They have to rebuild D1 content from scratch. So Proctor even talked about how they would rather build new content. Granted, there's a couple things like they loved revisiting Hawkmoon, they like revisiting Thorn, but it's how to balance them correctly while still having that D1 shine to them. And they talked about how they wanted to keep Thorn similar, but not be overpowered with the poison and stuff like that. I really enjoyed that because it showed care about the past, but like concern for the future of the sandbox. So that was kind of cool to hear from that aspect. They did say we're probably never going to see any random roll exotics again, like DMT or Hawkmoon.
Thank God.
Yeah.
And we're probably only going to see the rise of craftable exotics like the glaives and Osteostriga.
Which is awesome.
I will say this. I love Osteostriga. I think it's because you can customize your stock, your barrel. You can make it how you want as an exotic weapon, while it doesn't change how the exotic perk works at all.
Exactly. Very nice.
Same thing goes for the glaives.
Yeah.
I haven't crafted any of the glaives yet.
As a hunter main, you should really try out the arc glaive. It's pretty cool.
You just can't catch me in Wellspring now that I got Finch to 30. Like, there's no reason.
You can't catch me in Wellspring. Oh my god.
Like, I did my time there. Like, if I didn't get the glaive in that time, I did 30, like 100 Wellspring runs. Like, it's not meant to be.
Not happening. And then one of the last things they talked about was just the one thing that I really felt like the host of PvE had two goals: talk about origin traits and talk about verbs. They didn't really dive into anything else really over the course of the show other than when it was a community-based question. And I was like, you have so many opportunities here to ask so much about the sandbox.
I know they had devs right there. I know
you have devs right there, and you have so much opportunity.
Like, I don't care that it costs money to build exotics. I think that's a really cool fact that we now learned. But that was like a 2-minute segment. Like we knew that already. It costs money.
That was really like. And they even said like. What I really enjoyed. Now, here's the thing though, like Vivian specifically talked about playtesting a lot, and I want to sit down with the devs specifically and talk about what all goes into playtesting.
You can never convince me they playtest the way we think they playtest.
Right, because you will see people like Aztecross and Fallout, and people that nature that will go in depth with different things and test things and go across to different bosses.
They need community people. Like, I noticed they've been hiring more community people for like social media things. They need to just hire a community team for playtesting.
Right, because
straight up,
or like people that will tell them what to playtest.
Right,
they have job roles that do that supposedly, but man, I don't know if just having just a regular person who I don't know, because like if you look at the job title that's like, here, test out our build systems, break them for us, please push them to their limits. Like, you can't tell me someone's actually pushing their systems
right
because
now. If we were pushing to their limits, you would see things like like literally keeping you alive in a boss room. That would have been already been dealt with beforehand.
Yeah.
You would see things like Gear Falcon right now taking over the meta, or things like Arbalist and Lorenz have already been dealt with. You would see things like the countless times Telesto has broken the game, where you had like people just on Telesto duty going in every time there's a new patch, seeing if Telesto breaks the game. Like, you would see these things being tested and ran on everything. I remember the day Galahorn's Catalyst came out, once everyone ran it, there was a video Jigsaw Clyde did where they went to every dungeon and every raid boss and just beat them with Galahorn. And you saw like all the prophecy bosses one phase with Galahorn bubbling well. You saw like you saw the Pit of Heresy boss one phase. You saw like all this stuff just destroyed by Galahorn. Like, maybe y'all should have play tested that. Like, it astounds me. I remember like, or the video we all saw of 6 parasites one phasing Atrax. Like, there's these things that you would think like that are being play tested that aren't, and it makes you wonder. I want to sit down with a dev and go and then ask them what all goes into play testing, because it really feels like there's nothing that's done, or the fact that they'll send out patches that are incorrect, like the Rage Fighter thing, or when they randomly doubled last words damage instead of halving last words damage. Like, those things happen, and you're like, no one checked that file before you sent that out. Like, it makes me wonder. I want to have those conversations, like, especially because I feel like with this podcast specifically, because like if you listen, like if a casual person listens to the PvE like podcast, which we encourage you to do, there's a good chance there's a good chance you're going to fall behind when it comes to certain terminology. I feel like with this show specifically, we can be the sort of bridge between casuals and hardcore players. We can be that voice for like y'all, because not a whole lot of understanding is there for y'all. So we can be there and talk to the devs, and be that connecting bridge. So, like, I would love to sit down with Proctor or Mercules or anybody and be like, yo, what goes into playtesting? What makes you make certain decisions? And let's talk about firmly the new player experience. Those will be my first couple of goals, because one thing that I kind of enjoyed was they even hinted at and they even confirmed one thing that I was wondering about was the adding of crafting to older raids. They did start with Deepstone because of the kiosk. That was
of course, that was
bravo.
Obvious.
Like, because I was like,
that was
why
a no-brainer.
Well, I will admit, when I first met the TWAB that last week, I was like, why y'all start with Deepstone? Why not Last Wish? I'm like, oh wait, there's a kiosk in Deepstone, isn't there?
Yeah, is that a kiosk in POS?
Bro, you could just like make it like an extra chest, or make it be the darkness statue. That's what I do.
Wait, but is there a kiosk in Garden of Salvation?
No, there's not.
Okay, that's what someone was.
And Last Wish is going to be the hardest one of all, straight up because of how the loot table works, where it's just a free for all of guns.
I can see that one honestly never getting a kiosk. I can just see it being like a free for all. They just make it easier to get ethereal keys or some shit like that.
Yeah,
or some stuff like that.
I think they need to rework how the Last Wish loot pool works, because we know they're gonna be revisiting that raid, giving it origin traits and giving the guns new perks.
Because
so why not just rework the whole loot table? Why not?
Right.
It's like just rework it all.
Because we know from experience, like with Prophecy specifically, where they took the whole loot table out and put all the trials of the 9 weapons in. We know we know a loot table can be changed to a certain extent. So if they just need to put a loot table into Last Wish, that way when they do add a kiosk, it's simplified, because GOS has a loot table, it just doesn't have a kiosk. So if anything, you'll see a kiosk be put in GOS before you see a kiosk be put in Last Wish.
And I know you hate me saying this, Panda, but I think the next raid that's going to get craftable weapons.
It's going to be Vogue. It's going to be Vogue. It's going to be Vogue, because Vogue has a kiosk. And it's going to suck, because you're going to see all these people out here with
Crafted time lost.
with Foul
Or
time
crafted,
loss
yeah.
and Fatebringer time loss that worked their asses off for those, only to have people come in with like a gold Fatebringer or a gold or a regular Foul Verdict crafted with enhanced perks. So you're like, wow, I slaved
But like
over
that's the nature of an
Empire for so
evolving game.
long.
Like I understand that like sentiment, but like you had your time in the sun with that weapon. Now just go do it again. Like I
Yeah.
know that's frustrating to
do it
lose things, but like that means probably by the time that ships, you can get enhanced time loss perks. Like
Falcon.
you'll want
think of the 500 spoils I wasted trying to get a succession with reconstruction.
Yeah, but what else? But you did that experience. I know that's a frustrating experience to lose, but I
could have spent
like,
those spoils on Teraba and Legend of Acrius, but I spent them on that sniper rifle for a year.
But that was your choice, and that was your free destiny will to make that decision.
All right. So overall, the last guy I will like in terms of raid, they are apparently like reworking 1,000 voices to work with Solar 3.0, and I'm like, y'all are some crazy motherfuckers for that one.
Particle deconstruction was probably the most fun I've ever had in a season.
Yeah. I enjoyed the one before that, the one where the grenade one was the grenade one, but also that was one thing that Proctor touched on when it came to the exotics that really bugged me, where they straight up mentioned how they don't want to, like when they nerf an exotic or when they buff an exotic, they don't want to go too ham. And I'm like, yo, Anarchy wants to have a conversation with you where you legit grinded this thing into the dirt because it was quote unquote overused and in over demand. And the true argument of Anarchy being nerfed was it was too dominant. You saw it being like a required thing for everything in the game. My thing about that is don't nerf it into the ground, nerf it into a comfortable place where it's still a viable option for things. That's the one design philosophy I feel like Bungie needs to course correct is stop punching things into the ground so hard and then trying to fix it later. And I'm just like,
definitely easier conceptually probably to break something down completely and rebuild it as something new instead of like fine tuning something that already exists. Like I understand why they do it. Obviously, it doesn't feel good when they punch something to the ground, but I think conceptually it makes sense.
Well, like that's like because that's what Proctor said. That's what they did with Lord of Wolves, and I'm like, why grind it into the ground only for it to then be like rebuilt anew? Why not just get into a comfortable place where it can be balanced in the sandbox? That's my biggest issue because it feels like that's what happened with Queenbreaker and like things of that nature. We threw them so far into the back of the closet to make them stop being viable that no one touches them. It's either dismantled in your collections or in your vault never used.
To minimize potential losses, like they only had to rework it twice instead of making like maybe 3 or 4 minor changes that probably cost the same amount of money. Like to be honest, I don't know.
I mean, it makes sense.
I'm not happy with it easier, but
yeah. So from there, that was the end of that was like the overview of some of our opinions of the interview.
I have one last thing I want to touch on from the interview that wasn't like
get it, boy.
So Mercules posted something about.
I just talked about this.
That's what I get for zoning out.
Is it the Black Armory thing?
Yeah, I was sorry.
That was the first thing I talked about in the episode. What do you mean?
I was looking at listener questions. I was gathering listener questions.
So I mentioned this in the beginning of the podcast that Proctor talked about it during the interview, and Mercules mentioned that if we ever have a Saint or an Ada beat, I would like it will be like that'll be the gateway for Black Armory. And you even said Black Armory, yeah. Like what happened, Tom? What happened?
I understand. My mind dumps things too, and I'm focusing on something else.
I was looking at listener questions and organizing them.
Doing work is what he was doing.
Hey, at least they was doing something. I'll give them that.
Doing their work.
Something. But no, okay. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is this twab, because god damn it, Bungie, why you got to derail the whole show with a giant ass twab? I don't know.
That big? It's not big. It's like the one that
thick.
Derailed the episode that we had Bill on, where it derailed the whole episode.
Right, but no, this is pretty thick. So we are getting some changes to all of the elements, and because this is kind of what we thought was going to happen, where they introduced stasis and Void 3.0, Arc 3.0, Solar 3.0, and then during season 19, they're going to take a pass and adjust things to make them as balanced as possible before Lightfall. That was kind of the prediction. That's what we're seeing. So, like, they're kind of going through the fine-tooth comb, getting things ready for the next thing, and I really enjoy the fact that they're doing that. So, first thing up is like they're fine-tuning Excavated Solar, where they're talking about how they're going to lower restoration a little bit and like fine-tune it in PvE activities. And...
no more healing grenade crutches.
Okay, listen, yo, hold up.
PvP.
This is my issue with that, because I can understand from a warlock perspective, healing nades can be kind of annoying if you're a warlock with a rift and a healing nade. But like, I feel as if for Titan and Hunter, healing nades are the counter to the rift. And even then, my biggest issue.
Okay. When have you ever had a hard time killing someone out of rift? They're bot walking into the rift out of the rift.
And also that was my other thing with Lauralee. When everyone was bitching about Lauralee, like still are bitching about Lauralee, it pisses me off. Like that like a sunspot healing you is the same thing as a rift. But they're like, oh, but you get your rift back too fast.
It's so different though. I don't know.
Because my biggest thing is, if I can kill you in a rift, I can kill you in a sunspot. I do both very efficiently. So when all these people are like, oh, they're overpowered, I'm like, bitch, I was killing people back when Lauralee had a 20% buff from the sunspots. I can still kill you then. I can kill you now. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's why when everyone's like, oh, it's so hard, I'm like, bro, you just got to work at it. I'm not saying get good. I'm saying do the right calls. And don't get frustrated when someone gets behind a corner and heal. Reload your gun and get ready to resume the duel.
Don't rush in. I've had to learn that.
That's what that's what the mentality is of just PvP in general. Is people love to rush into things. That's why one of my favorite things to do is to drop a barricade and watch as any idiot will charge through my barricade and be at 1 health, and I'll just be like, punch, and they'll die. And then you'll see people going, oh, you're crushing behind your barricade. I'm like, no,
don't run into it.
I'm using my class ability effectively, the same way you use your dodge effectively or your rift effectively. I'm using my class ability effectively.
Why I don't see more Titans use rally barricades more offensively than I see them used. Like, they are great. Like, whenever I play on my Titan, I bait people into corners, use my rally, they run into it, and then they're dead.
Yep. And what's even funnier with the rally barricade is I remember when Lauralee first came out and the 20% buff was a thing, and they're like, people are going, oh, I can't kill a Lauralee Titan. Do you know how many times I would use the freaking rally barricade with Lauralee, or I would see other people using the rally barricade, and I would just snipe them, or I would get sniped? Like, that rally barricade ain't doing shit for you, dog.
Or just, like, disengage the fight. Like, oh.
Well, and that's the biggest thing that I feel like overall, in both in PvE and PvP, that a lot of newer players, just even long-term players, don't understand is disengagement. Removing yourself from an act, like from the fight for a moment to heal, to reassess, to go about it a different strategy. Like whether it's a GM, whether it's a raid, whether it's PvP. The idea of disengaging and reevaluating your situation is so crucial. And so many people don't think about it. And it's why you lose so many encounters. It's why you lose fights. It's why you lose raids. It does so much good when you just disengage. When you start like thinking about that, disengaging, it helps so much in the long run. When I talked to a lot of disengage, he was doing so much better.
Yeah. There's more. The longer you're alive is always better than being dead.
Most death. The next thing they're talking about in terms of restoration, like we talked about restoration a little bit, like where they're like nerfing it from 40 Like 40 health
25
per
to
second.
20, 40 to 37.5.
Right, which I thought was really cool. It no longer stacks with healing risks healing, and the stronger heal over time will be prioritized. Then they talked about how Emperor of Torches is going from the radiant base duration is being reduced from 10 seconds to 8 seconds, and
12
now
to 8.
applies from 10 to 8, and then now applies a -10 discipline penalty while equipped, which that kind of hurts, but I understand. Like, tragic, but like it's fine. That Emperor of Solace now provides a bonus 50% to radiant duration rather than a flat 5 seconds, which
I
that's
like
kind of cool.
That it because it can change.
Yeah,
Because now it can ebb and flow.
and then it's even more consistent with the behavior with restoration, which I thought was kind of cool. Hunter Human, please describe the Hunter stuff, because Hunter not what I do.
Honestly, the things I was most excited about were the tether changes, and
I was talking about knocking
got
down on the veg shot stuff, but all
I
right.
was gonna say I know them too. Golden gun changes first. So Deadshot and Sharpshooter, or whatever the longer one was called, both had a damage resistance. The Sharpshooter is losing its damage resistance, I think, or is it? Here, I'll just pull it up. I'm not gonna. My memory's trash.
We wanted to cement the Deadshot golden. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So Deadshot still has its 15% bonus damage, but no longer provides bonus duration, and no longer provides its 15% damage resistance to Marksman Golden Gun. So the 6-shooter no longer lasts as long, and the Marksman Golden Gun, you don't get damage resistance anymore, and then Blade Barrage is losing its 24 knives down to 20, and that's more for burst damage, PvE stuff.
Good.
And the void changes are super exciting, because Shadow Shot Deadfall is now going to act like Deadfall used to, where it just pulls everybody in, and then it keeps them there, and it has a longer lifetime. And Mobius Quiver now is going to, because Mobius Quiver was just the better option, because it lasted as long, it did more damage, and you could use it more offensively and defensively. But now it's going more into the offensive, where it only lasts for 6 seconds. You're putting out damage, you're putting on a debuff, and you're done. While Deadfall is going to just be, let's put out some big numbers, let's pair it with Div, let's put out some max debuff,
right,
which is awesome. And then arc changes, we're pretty much just getting a better Tempest Strike, which is huge. I can see the future of Tempest Strike. It got a 30% damage buff.
Tempest Strike.
Only in PvE though.
Oh thank God.
Yep.
Got chills on my spine. It was a bad idea. Warlocks, your Void Walker's getting some buffs from that Vortex Nova Bomb. The projectile speed terrifyingly is getting buffed by 21%. The inward pull is being the radius is being impacted by 17%.
It already pisses me off with how much it pulls me in. So
and the strength of it is being buffed by 20%, which is kind of nutty.
Oh my
God. That's just terrifying in its own right. Hey Sentinel Titans. You know how I've been mentioning for a long time now about how shoulder charge overall just needs better connectivity? This is a step in the right direction, where Sentinel Titan Shield Bash is going to improve reliability of applying suppression, because sometimes when you hit a target, it just doesn't add suppression. So this is a step in the right direction
for all melee.
Yeah, hopefully, because the biggest issue with shoulder charge, whether it be Hammer Strike, whether it be the Arc One or Shield Bash right now, is that if somebody dodges, if somebody slides, if somebody jumps, even if somebody even just turns their camera or their body to the side, there's a chance that your shoulder charge just won't connect. It's as if you bounce off of the character model, and it's been a running problem for a long time now. And I hope this is a step in the right direction, because there's so many times where someone will go in for a shoulder charge and there'll be a target because of the animation not finishing and you bouncing off of a target. And that's not even like you need to think better about when you shoulder charge. It's no, the game isn't working the way it's supposed to, where the animation is trapping you. it's like it's a problem overall. Like, I understand that Bungie wanted to nerf shoulder charge because of the complaints of it one-shotting, but now we have things like the new Arc Warlock melee that can one-shot whole teams if they hit it right. Like, and we're still out here going, oh, shoulder charge was a problem. Like, bro, like we're at the point where where it should be able to one-shot overall without parrying greaves if your resilience is less than 50. That should be a baseline ability overall. You shouldn't need Synthoceps, you shouldn't need Doom Marchers, you shouldn't need parrying greaves. If your resilience is less than 50, any of the shoulder charges should be able to one-shot you. That should be a very reasonable compromise. If you're hitting 100, you're fine.
I agree. I'm fine with that.
I agree.
Now,
I think resistance should work like that in PvP, yeah.
Now, I want to make sure I do this call out right real quick, because there was a I think it was Patty Cakes the YouTuber made a post where he was talking about how he's very frustrated with resilience and overall for the classes. Excuse me. And how it feels very not fair for hunters when it comes to how they have to change how they spec their builds because of resilience at tier 10 giving you the times for resistance. And even in PvP, the more resilience you have, the less receptive you are to damage overall. And like he's saying, that's very counterintuitive for hunters because they're being decentivized to run mobility when mobility is supposed to be your most important perk as a hunter because of your dodge. My counter to that is, while as a Titan player I gain like more barricade energy from it or class ability, there has to be a defense stat in every video game, my guy.
Yeah,
like,
my
guy. Like that's my biggest thing. Like if we need to make it to where class ability is a whole other stat overall, fine, cool, do that. But I will say straight up, your most important stats overall, doesn't matter what class you are right now in the current meta, and what it should have been overall, like for high-end PvE and PvP, should be your resilience and your recovery, because your resilience is your defense stat. It's the thing that protects you overall. And like your recovery helps you recover in a fight. If you get shot to almost 1 health and you're behind cover after you disengage from a fight, like if you got body shot from a sniper shot, you're still alive. Your recovery determines how fast you heal from that. So if your recovery is like 20 and you're not recovering fast enough, if a opponent jumps in and shoots you and you're still at 1 health, that's because your recovery is too low. If your resilience is high enough that you can take damage, cool, good job. But if you're a hunter running around with like 100 mobility, but like 20, 30 resilience, then you're a glass cannon, dog. You're gonna get shot, and that's your own fault. That's not the game's fault. That's the dev's fault. Because I know Salter Grumbo's been complaining about the resilience ×4 as well. There needs to be a defense stat in every video game. Falcon, go for it.
Are you talking about PvE or PvP?
Both, honestly, both.
All right, so I know I run a whopping 8 resilience in PvP on my hunter, and I do not have any issues still going on 20+ streaks in all game modes. So there's that. The only things you need in PvP are recov, mobility, and intellect. And the rest of that is player preference. You don't need to run 100 anything in PvP to be good. Most of it's gun skill, knowing when to disengage and do all that jazz. It's PvP, not I'm going to use all my abilities to dunk on everybody as fast as I can. Some people can do that, not what it's about. And PvP, just like you said, defense. You got to have it.
It's like...
Yeah,
it's video game basics at
that. Right, like we out here, like I understand build crafting. Build crafting, you're supposed to be able to build into your class the way you're supposed to. But if there's not if we're not gonna go straight like basic Yu-Gi-Oh and have an attack points and defense points, then by golly, we have to be able to compromise at where the defense factors into play. And resilience is where that happens.
Everything, you know.
I've collected enough armor where I can run tier 7 everything. and I can run tier 10 resilience and tier 6 everything else. Like, you can do it. You can run 10 mobility, tier 10 mobility, tier 10 resilience, 50 recovery, tier 10 intellect. Like, you can do that. Like, you just got to do it. You got to build craft, you got to grind. There's no issues with it right now.
And also, there's a great perk. There's a great mod in the game for those who were around for Season of the Lost. If you just change your class item to stasis and you put on a utility kickstart mod, a utility kickstart mod gives you damn near half of your class item once you use it. So anybody who complains about like Lorely giving you too much class item, like class item power, or that resilience is too powerful for Titans, or that like your mobility shot because you need higher resilience, utility kickstarts right there, dog. What's your problem? Like, I don't see the problem here. Because I even did a comparison where if you have 2 utility kickstarts on a hunter and 2 utility kickstarts on a warlock, your like say you have like 50 mobility or 50 recon, your class ability recharges almost about the same as just a base Titan with 100 resilience.
Yeah.
So like there's no reason to even be having this conversation.
No. It's just people don't want to learn to build craft is what it comes down to.
Yeah, and like granted, these are still high level players making these conversations, but it's still like, if you're gonna complain about these things, we're gonna check you at the door in regards to that.
Yeah, just because you're a high level player doesn't mean you have the right answers all the time. Just because you have a following doesn't mean you have the right answers all the time. They're called opinions for a reason. They can be disagreed with and talked about. As long as there's a conversation surrounding it and you don't strong arm people around it, that's okay. But I just see a lot of people owning these conversations like there's only one option, and that's just not the case ever.
Exactly, and we're not even like name calling or anything like that. We're doing kind of like snide little jokes about it. We're not being mean because we want to open that dialogue. We want people to come on the show and talk to us about these things. And
we're not calling people little Timmies.
But moving on in terms of the rest of the things, all the people who were bitching about storm nades, rejoice.
But it's getting fixed in a way that actually makes sense.
They're just lowering everything by 1 second or 0.5 seconds.
Lowering the active time of the storm nade cloud,
which is so like it makes perfect sense because like to all the people, to all the warlocks out there that were super upset that Titans got a grenade perk or a grenade aspect, they even say it's in the thing where our intention with this aspect was to lead hard into Striker as the Titans grenade-centric class, echoing Code of the Earthshaker's role from the original sandbox, and be able to give people that ability and force bunkered players to move when a storm nade was approaching, i.e. lane snipers or things of that nature. If you throw a storm nade, it causes you to disengage from the action. But and now they're correcting that by just lowering the time a little bit, which is perfect because overall,
you can see it now.
They make it easier to see. So like overall, I had no issue with the storm nades overall. Like, I thought they were like fun as hell, but like there was no issue for me when it came to the storm nades because some, like especially for capture the last weekend, some people would just walk away from the storm nade. Like you can do that.
Yeah. Same conversation. Just disengage.
Yeah. Just like the people don't know how to disengage from fights. They want to press in hard and not have to worry about consequences. And that's where
I know my shooty gun shooting you faster than you're shooting me.
Yeah, and it's just sometimes you got to disengage from a fight because not everything's gonna be perfect for you. So that was kind of cool. Then we got into the stasis, where we're actually looking into fixing some stasis shit. So, also, if we ever miss anything, like I kind of like swooped over the warlock, like they're increasing the ball lightning for a travel range from like 27.5 to 35 meters, and the chain lightning against PvE combating by 50%. If we ever, also, why is this happening? We're buffing Arc Souls? Huh?
I'm pumped.
I'm sad. And I'm scared.
I mean, they're so good already. I'm terrified. It's just PvE though, right?
PvE combat, yes.
Yeah, I'm chill with that.
Like it just like if that was a PvP too, I'd be terrified. I'd be sweating bullets. But thankfully,
I'm just glad it doesn't have. Yeah, if it had infinite
horrifying.
uptime like Liar's Handshake, that'd be horrifying. But it has like a 15-second cooldown. Unless you build craft enough to throw on rifts every time yours runs out, that's different. But I'm excited.
Yeah, so it'll be cool. But now for stasis. Ooh, yes. So they want to be able to return stasis to its original potency, like around Beyond Light, without it being busted. And I appreciate that. But I feel like a lot of these changes, because the biggest changes that we see is that stasis slow is being increased a little bit inside of is like overall when it comes to different like a thing like cold snap grenades or even dust field grenades, they're upping the slow by 10%. They're correcting some of the nerfing to the cold snap seeker. They're buffing cold snap grenades application by 13%, and dust field grenades by 13%. They're being able to buff certain fragments like Winter Shroud fragment for hunters being buffed from 1 slot fragments out to 2, and Cryoplasm for 1 to 2. And then they're actually working on changing the potency of Shadebinder a little bit, which is kind of cool. But I feel like all these changes already, like all these changes kind of concern me though, because it doesn't address the biggest problem I see with stasis and PvP, where if you're a stasis titan, you're never getting your super in PvP.
But that's like the point.
They did.
Like,
I will preface that with they did say they're going to look at super economy. They're going to take another Passover with this after Strand comes out. They're just doing initial stuff before Strand comes out, and then post Lightfall, they're going to be doing a bunch of different changes.
Okay, I can get behind that because like it really feels like, especially because stasis,
they don't want to like break the game before
right. No, but like especially when it comes to stasis, where it's the only subclass that doesn't have alternate supers. Stasis Titans really suffer where they just don't like you'll never get your super in a trials match. You'll rarely see it in a control match sometimes.
You'll get it. I get my Shadebinder every time as a warlock, and that's a 10:30 cooldown.
Yeah, but like okay, let me pull up D2 armor picker real quick. I want to check this real quick.
The point of stasis is its abilities. I know the supers are really fun, and the point of supers in PvP isn't just to dunk on the other team. It feels good when it happens, but that's not like why they exist in my opinion. If you get 1 or 2 kills with it, that's a successful super. And I think you can do that with them. I think there's obviously supers that way outshine that stat, and that's probably why they're going to readdress the super economy.
Right.
But
think about it like this. Think about it like this. Especially for trials, the only Titan supers that you ever see ever, like by the end of a trial, unless they are just like outputting damage like no other, because occasionally I'll see like a Fist of Havoc. The only supers you ever see in a trials match from a Titan are Thunder Crash, Bubble because it's the fastest super in the economy, or Burning Ball. And Burning Ball is rare these days. Glacial Quake, Sentinel Shield, Shield, and Fist of Havoc takes 7 minutes to go out at tier 10. So it's like, wow.
That's what Shadebinder is too.
Shadebinder I see constantly in trials matches. I never see Glacial Quake, Sentinel Shield, or Fist of Havoc, if at all. It's
because
odd.
You can get the ice flare bolt is just really good. That's the only reason. You take a huge L. You take a huge L with the super. Like I use it in trials, and I take a huge L using Shadebinder because I'll usually only get the super once, and it's trials, and that super does not excel in chasing people down if people can just hide from it usually. But man, those ice flare bolts, those freezing rifts you can throw down, that's where it's at, and that's why I'm pumped.
Those rifts hurt. Those rifts hurt ass.
So that's why I'm glad to see these stasis buffs, because you might actually see me using Revenant Hunter again, where I can throw a Duskfield grenade, actually slow them a significant amount, throw a shuriken, freeze them, break them, or just slow them down and just jump around. Like
Now,
that makes the class viable again.
What I really am afraid of, I don't know like where this came from, but I want to speak on this. There's a clan going around in the Destiny Trials community right now called Behemoth, where their whole game plan is to go into trials in sets of 3, running Hoarfrost Z and Stasis Titans with a fusion rifle as your secondary and Cerberus 1 as your primary. And I don't know if it was just for the capture weekend or if it's going to be for every trials thing moving forward, but the whole idea behind it is keep making stasis barricades and stasis walls with your grenade and stuff like that over and over again and break them. That way you just have like infinite overshield off of all of your teammates.
And see, that's like a viable stasis Titan build. Like just like you take the L with the super, but you get some gnarly abilities in the trade-off.
But you gotta really build into that and commit to it. Because I even tried by like solo doing it, and it takes work. It takes work to do that. Like it's a struggle solo doing that. But the whole team rolls in, all throws down a wall, all break the wall, and you all have like full overshield. It's dirty. It's like, and I was in trials LFGs, and they're like, "What do we do?" And I'm like, "Bro, just throw a storm nade." Oh, they all died. I'm like, bro, like, just there's ways to counter the meme because it really felt like a meme, honestly.
Oh, for sure.
I'll go
that's
into
all
trials
it is.
with you. You don't have to LFG. Just text me.
Same.
I'm basically an LFG.
You're a dork, Cole.
What I'm here for.
And the last thing they hinted at in the TWAB is that, excuse me, we don't know what the new dungeon is for next season. Please, God, let it be a Vex dungeon. Please, God, let it be a Vex dungeon.
Stone Crypt, that would be cool.
Please let it be a Vex dungeon. Anyway, if we get like whatever dungeon we are getting, it's coming out on December 9th, which is the first Friday of the new season. So mark your calendars, kids, because shit's about to get hot.
I may or may not stream that. We'll find out.
That'd be kind of cool.
Do it. I'll stream it with you.
So, listener questions, but I'm gonna start with the one I said I'd make a listener question anyway. Skill-based matchmaking and in PvE overall. We've mentioned it a couple times. I want to elaborate on it because a YouTuber made a video that really bothered me.
When does a YouTuber make a video that doesn't bother you?
Right.
This is why I'm saying we need to make a segment.
That just Panda rants.
It'll be called "What Grinds Panda's Gears."
Jesus. So
and it would be whatever happens that week in Destiny that grinds Panda's gears.
Oh my god. Okay, we might actually have to make that a thing. So there was a video put out in regards to the current PvP because Bungie helped put out a tweet where they said they're taking a pass at looking at improving the matchmaking and the network connectivity of Crucible matches right now. And all these people were saying, is this the death of skill-based matchmaking? No. What it is all these people who are out here as their talking point of why skill-based matchmaking shouldn't exist is the connection, i.e., why should I have to go into a match with someone across the world from me who's the same KD as me, and them have crap internet and me have good internet, and me have to watch them skip around the map because their connection's bad? So why should I be punished and have to play them when I can just be in a wider Crucible pool and face everybody? Well, they're like, because you'll pub stop people. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this. And I'm like, yo, hold up. Because those are the major talking points of the why skill-based matchmaking shouldn't be in control, or just why skill-based matchmaking is a problem overall, is they don't want to have to sweat their dicks off. They have issues with the connectivity of being with other sweats because other sweats don't have great internet connections. And
suspicious.
And they don't like the idea of it being in the casual playlist. That third one is the only one I will give you, because if we are going to remove skill-based matchmaking from Control, skill-based matchmaking should be in Trials, skill-based matchmaking should be in Ranked playlist when Ranked is reset. Because and I will even give True Vanguard one thing he said a while back, where if we don't have skill-based matchmaking, there should be at least outlier protection where a 3.0 KD or a 2.0 or even a 1.5 KD should not be going up against a 0.3 or a 0.1 or a 0.5. That wide margin is too insane. There should be no reason why you are facing that thing. And then I believe I think it was Darkside Royalty's video who pissed me off really, where it was like he's saying there's so many videos on how to get good and get better at the game. And I'm like, yo, that's cool and all. There's better, like we even talked about how disengaging is important in the game right now, and like how over both in PvP and PvE. There's ways to get better, but if I go into a Crucible match and it immediately sniped, how do I get better? If I'm immediately fusion rifled, how do I get better? If I'm immediately shotgunned, or when I'm out movement by a player who is a higher KD than me by legions, how do I get better? You don't. How you get better is facing players with similar KDs than you, and then you slowly improve and are able to go to the next ladder, to the next rung in the ladder, and improve and fight. You face people who are on your skill level, and then you improve and they improve, or you improve and they don't. And you go farther and further and faster and go better. Not going, oh, you're going to keep getting pump stomped and over again. And they're like, oh, pump stomping isn't real. That's just a fake talking term by people who don't want to get good.
No, it's real. People don't believe that exists.
They're over here, like the argument was, it's just a talking point by people who don't want to get better at the game.
Oh
or even the other thing that he put out was, it's just made by people who want to see PvP removed from the game. And I'm like, what, bro? Come on now.
Pump stomping is in every multiplayer game. It's not just a Destiny problem.
There's people in Modern Warfare 2 right now who are saying, like, they say skill-based matchmaking is a problem. Like, and what I find so funny about, like, that was even brought up by a TikToker that I follow, that a while back, y'all didn't even know skill-based matchmaking was present in video games until developers started telling you it existed. You wouldn't have known that skill-based matchmaking was a thing. You would have just noticed that you were getting hit by players that are the same, like a skill level as you. And my biggest thing is, if we remove it from the casual playlist and put it in the ranked playlist and put it in the trials playlist, where's your argument now? Oh, I don't want to face someone who has a bad connection. Okay, cool. Bungie just said they're working on fixing the connection issues. What arguments do you have? Nothing. You worked your butt off to face other people on your skill level. You are now facing people on your skill level. What's the problem? Because I think it was Clyde who said the best weekend of trials was the weekend where you go from facing a 2.0 level team to then facing like pub stomp level people, and that's not healthy for any video game.
No, that's not fun at all. Clyde never has good takes, anyways.
And people are out here saying that, like, oh, trials is at its lowest player base in the, like, since prior to Witch Queen. And I'm like, first of all, we're at the tail end of a season.
It's always like this. Everybody always posts the same picture, and it's always the same.
It's always the same.
It's not new information.
Like, we're at the low end of the season. Yep. I will be 100%.
Weapons are re-rolling. Like, we already had it. Like,
yeah.
It's nothing new. Like, get over yourself.
Like you already have the god rolls of certain weapons you want, so you're not incentivized to go in there unless you want the ship or the sparrow or anything like that. So you have no reason to keep playing. Bungie has said they're not going to be mad at you if you play something else. They want you to come back when there's new content for you. And then there's the people who are like, we've been playing the same map since D1. That was a good talking point like a while back when y'all didn't get new maps for like 2 years. But debatably, the Witch Queen map came out. It's not that great. That's fine. You could that's a viable argument that you can make that argument if you want to. Cool, that's fine. But actually make that argument, stop saying there isn't a new map. You got Vostok and Eternity back as rotated and returning raids. I mean, not returning raids, returning maps. Y'all barely like when we go to those maps, and it's annoying as hell. Y'all voted against Eternity the one weekend when it was a vote for it, and Vostok when it was a vote for it for trials. And y'all complain about there being new maps. Like, and now we have Cathedral of Dusk, and people are like, oh, that's fine, but like, where's the new maps? And I'm like, bro, that takes time. They've gone through multiple dev shakeups and multiple new funding. Like, it takes time. Like, I understand they gutted a lot of content when they removed the stuff that Activision made. But, like, let them still go back and improve stuff and get things better. Because that's the, like, I keep seeing videos of why Destiny PvP is dying. It's the flawless pool, skill-based matchmaking, and a lack of maps and a lack of loot to chase. I will give you loot. Because right now, other than the shotgun, the bow, and then Reeds and Aisha are leaving, there ain't nothing to chase in trials right now. So I'll give you loot. That's fine. We can make that argument. But other than that, y'all can shove it. I'm sorry. Like this constant badgering of, oh, PvP is dying, Destiny's dying. It's the end of the season. Shut up. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
I don't know if Falcon or Toll want to speak on that, but that's where I'm gonna leave that. I'm really sick of people in the skill-based matchmaking argument where it's like, I will give you the casual side of it argument where like sometimes like you just want to test a new gun and you want to go in and test a new gun and see how it goes. But there's no reason why you as a 1.5 or a 2.0 person KD should be going to test a new gun on a 0.3. That's all I'm saying.
No, when skill-based matchmaking, I've had the most fun I've had in Crucible this season in a long time because I'm actually playing against people who match my skill level, and sometimes they fall above my skill level, and I'm like, oh, I actually have to play better against these people. I've actually noticed I've gotten better, even though like my stats haven't increased. I can do things I wasn't doing previously because I'm actually being challenged in PvP now, and I'm going out of my way to challenge myself, and like. PvP is the most replayable playlist they have in Destiny. I do agree that loot's lacking, but like that's not why I play PvP. I play PvP because it's fun. I enjoy getting better at it. And generally when you play with people, it's a better experience. If you're all bitter playing together, of course you're going to be bitter about it. Just do something else then. Don't make it worse for other people.
Right. Like there's room to improve and we can change some things, but like this whole we're constantly dying thing needs to just stop. Like, yeah. I'll be 100% honest. Like, I'm just sick of, and we've mentioned it before, we'll mention it again. The flawless pool is not a problem.
No, it's great.
You just don't like it because it makes you have to sweat more. And it makes it so you can't carry people.
You can still carry people. You just reset at 6 and help them win their 7th game, and you go on to the next person. You still get the carry stat. You just don't get the flawless.
But even then, like I will die on the hill that the carrying economy needs to stop in Destiny. Like I understand you want to help your friends. Like sometimes you legitimately just want to help your friends. But the people who are like, I'm out here doing like free carries if you follow my stream and you enter the raffle. Yeah, like sub to my stream and you get a carry.
$25 and I'll carry you through trial.
Or
instead of building a real relationship, I'm just gonna take your money.
Right, and it's just like when I see that stuff, that makes me want Bungie to remove carrying from the game. Yeah, they'll use cheap guns to do it. It's like I like that. Like those things make me want Bungie to remove carrying from the game and almost penalize it in the same way they do with recovs, because when you like if you at any point are accepting money for like carrying people, or if you're doing it for a raffle, that should just be auto banned, like straight up, like on site. Like if you're helping people, cool, that's fine. You're doing your thing, you're helping people out. But if you are like straight up just manipulating and like making an economy or a living off of the game in that way on site, I'm sorry, like you need to go. Or people
because you're essentially using the Destiny branding to make money, like, and they're even labeling it Destiny. Like, I can see why that'd be like an issue if we're really going to get down the nitty gritty. Why they could potentially stop people from doing that.
Exactly, and like also these people who are out here 1-win resetting, y'all need to get banned too. I'm gonna say that right there because you KD boosting is starting to get on my last damn nerve.
It's never that serious. You don't need to be doing that.
Right, like you out here like padding your stats and having like hundreds of wins on your trials report only because you're 1-win resetting. Like that's not the way to do that, dog. You're just
do that.
Yeah, people do that.
Oh yeah,
it's so bad, bro. You'll see it in LFGs too in this 1-win reset. Yep. It's so bad.
Yep. Yeah, they'll finish the weekend with like a 7 KD.
Yep, like especially on Sundays when they want to do it in the flawless pool. That way they stop people from going flawless in the in the non-flawless pool. And it's so
people,
dumb.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's a little rough, but like no. Toll, is there actually any actual listener questions now that we've ranted for a hot second?
Yeah, there's one I really want to get to.
Let's go.
All right, so this is from our boy Seraph.
Okay.
He wants to know, if this is for each of us, if you were given to bring back one strike in one unsunset one gun, what would that be? So let's start with the strikes first. And Falcon, we're gonna start with you. This band always starts. We're gonna do something different.
Okay, go for it.
What was the is that the Sepkus Reborn or whatever that was in Rise of Iron? Was that a strike?
Well, it was just a Siva it was a Siva version of Devil's Lair.
Oh, we're talking about sunset strikes?
Yes, yeah. Specifically unsunset. What strike would you want unsunset?
I want Savathun's song back. That one was so fun. I don't know why that was
we went in as a group of 9.
Yeah, seriously.
Funny shit. It's like, bro, I just killed like 2 gods, and you're having trouble here.
Yeah, and I mean, you just clean it up.
Like, I don't want to say it, but
that
sounds like a skill issue there.
It's a skissue.
If you really wanted to tug on my heartstrings a little bit, the one that I would really like to see come back. I have 2 actually. They're both Vex themed because I'm a fucking Vex freak. Either the Pyramidion or the tree, or the tree of probabilities.
Because, I love the tree of probability.
Because if you really think about it, the Mercury versions of the Vex in Vogue are the only current way for new players to see the past versions of the Vex. And it sucks because they have no comprehension of that Vex looked differently in their prime compared to what they look like now. And it really sucks because like still you have all these new players that have no context for the past. So like if you threw in Tree of Probabilities or like Pyramidion, you would have like, well, Pyramidion doesn't have them, but like Pyramidion is a fun strike in general. Like you would see with the Tree of Probabilities, the ability for all these people to, or even just a Garden World, because Garden World had the giant root mine at the end. Those different ones having the ability to show you the old versions of the Vex in that kind of frame. I just want the Infinite Forest back, dog. Like I want Infinite Forest back. I want it back bad. I'm sorry.
Now I'm gonna throw a curveball at you, and I'm gonna say
maybe they'll reprise it because they're bringing us. Sorry, what?
The Festering Core strike.
The Festering Core.
It's from IO. It was a very unplayed one, but it was really fun. It was basically the Taken were invading a Vex installation on IO, and had taken over one of the Vex mines in there, and you had to go fight your way in. And you had to fight your way in through the Vex defenses to then take out the Taken that was controlling everything. And
what's it called?
Fun.
The Festering Core?
Yes.
I don't remember.
Why don't I remember that?
Right, my brain's like, what are you talking about? Oh wait, I hated this one. Oh my god, because it was like I think it was it was one of these ones where you just went so deep into the caves of IO.
Yeah, I'm
in
sorry.
In the Pyramidions, and then you fought a crazy tough like taken boss at the end. I remember this thing. I hated this one.
Don't get me wrong. I'm a man for the Pyramidion because I like that strike because I was getting revenge for the main man.
I literally don't remember this.
Falcon's like, what? But okay, but also in terms of the weapon that I want back, give me my blast furnace, god damn it.
I know, I think all of our answers are literally gonna be fucking
blast furnace!
Alright.
I just want Hammerhead back.
Not saying any Black Armory weapons, because we know everybody and their mom knows people want Black Armory back. What else could we get back? What else do you want back? Not saying Black Armory weapons, because everybody...
The Season of Dawn weapons were pretty good. That linear, the Season of Dawn linear, I forget what it's called, would fit pretty well into the sandbox right now. I think that'd be fun.
I'm going to be a weirdo, and I'm going to say the Midnight Coup.
Oh,
I'm not a big... I wasn't a big hand cannon fan back in that day, but...
I'm pumped for when Leviathan.
I loved the Midnight Coup. It actually felt really, really fun in my hands.
Yeah. No, that's
that
really
or
good.
I'd love to. I didn't get a lot of time to get the weapons from it, but I want the weapons from all of the raid layers to come back.
How do you think the raid layers would come back? Do you think they'll ever come back?
I say they just put them in as dungeons and call it a day.
Fair.
All right, no, keep them as raid layers.
What a concept. Some people don't even know what a raid layer is.
Right. And it's like, why not just keep them as raid layers itself? Because that's how it was when they were in the game. Why not keep it that way and have some fun?
Yeah, honestly what they should do is just make the Leviathan like a central hub area for all the raids and have like instant starters when you want to go start one of them, and then just have them all start from there.
I think it should be like a what's it called? It should be a page in the Legends tab, like a sub page.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, like like layers. Yeah, that'd be cool.
So Panda just said he had internet issues, so I'm gonna be doing the outro today.
Let's go.
Yay. So,
I believe in you.
No, I got it. So it's like I want to see the raid layers come back, because honestly, those were I never got to do the one where
Pair of stars.
Yeah, I did Eater of Worlds. I loved Eater of Worlds the first time I did that.
Awesome. Yeah, that was such a cool one.
When I did it, this like group of guys taught me all the way through, and it was so much fun. I actually had a fun LSD experience. It was wild.
That's good. Yeah. Eater of Worlds was an easy one to teach, so I bet it wasn't super pressing either to teach people it. Spire of Stars another time I've heard was a nightmare.
Spire of Stars was wild.
I'm back.
Yeah. Welcome.
Are we still here? Or did you?
Yeah.
Yes. No,
all right,
we're
cool.
here.
Yes.
All right, yeah.
Talking about the raid layers.
I randomly unplugged my Wi-Fi in accident. I'm so sorry. Well, I'm here.
No, we're talking about the raid layer weapons, because that's what I want to see come back.
Okay, cool, fair enough.
I wanted to see Midnight Coup come back because that's like originally
Blast furnace.
Not weapons that are Black Armory, because everybody and their mom wants them back.
Okay, fine. I want Saint Shotgun. I want
a perfect paradox.
Fair.
Yeah.
I'd love to see I would love to. Panda being someone who loves Saint, yeah, that man needs to get himself a perfect paradox, and as well as he has a shotgun kink. This man has every shotgun. Like, where some people are convincing he has a Reese Walker but pre origin trait that has over to 1,500 kills.
Who, me?
Wow.
Yeah, you.
Yeah, that's like because all I want is Saint 14 shotgun, because I love me some shotguns, dog. Like, I love me some shotguns.
I know, I just said you have a kink for shotguns.
I love them to death. So it's like, if I can get like my like the perfect one, because what was it? Perfect Paradox. If I had Perfect Paradox, it'd be over, dog. Like you like everyone would die by my hands. You would see nothing but pain every day. Like if you ever see me get mad in Crucible, Reese Walker is the first thing I grab.
It really is, and it's funny.
And you see me cause pain. Like that's my baby right there. Like even back in the day, Fellwinters was my baby, but I never got enough kills on it to really matter. And then like now, Inquisitors, my dirty girl. Like because Falcon has even seen me go ham because I'll slide shoot. It's like, well,
Yeah.
that happened.
Yeah, that thing's gross.
Like right now, my favorite pairing is either No Time to Explain an Inquisitor or Messenger and Inquisitor, and it's chef's kiss. Toll, was there any more listener questions, or are we good?
That was the only one that.
All right.
Well, actually, there was one from Bill. Do you want to get to that one real quick?
Sure, why not?
All right, let me pull that up from.
Wasn't that in regards to the dungeon?
No, that was Madge, and I had.
Is the upcoming PvP project that Bungie going to replace Destiny PvP? No.
No.
Like legitimately, because people love the lore of Destiny too much, and they're not going to give up on Destiny PvP just because of that. That's the cut and dry of that one. Sorry.
Yeah. The question from Madge, I actually want to leave for next week and make it a topic itself because it relates to next season entirely, and it's like that'd be a fun thing to talk about on stream. So I'm going to save that for an actual topic.
All right, cool. Well, then we will go in and dive into that next week, folks. Falcon, what is your closing statement for this episode?
Ooh, I think everybody should try PvP, even if it drives you nuts, especially with skill-based matchmaking now. I think it's super rewarding to go in with a level head and just try to get better at it. I think it increases your overall understanding of the game too. So I don't think it's something you should ever not try, especially now that there's reasons not to be afraid of it.
Hell yeah. Toll, your closing statement.
If you guys have any meme exotics you want me to bring into light, let me know, because I'm looking for. Because if Borealis isn't my thing, I gotta find something to use in PvP. I gotta find something that'll be like my niche, my brand.
Oh my god! I think it's Toll's mad because like Priz has DMT and I have Lord of Wolves, so he's like wanting his niche.
Well, it's more like I'm trying to build my brand. I want to build up myself, and so I gotta figure that out.
Fair enough. My closing statement definitely will always be just keep being good and like be better representatives of the community. I feel like a lot of people forget as content creators that it's really easy to become like an echo chamber for folks without meaning to, and there's no real way for conversation to flourish. Like just there's no way for it to exist. So I think overall we just need to be able to have those conversations like the same way the devs just talked to a whole other podcast. It was super cool to hear them and be excited. Like hearing Vivian's excitement about developing the Delicate Tube was so awesome because you hear the passion behind what she's making, and that was so cool to hear. So when we can share our love for things like Borealis and like Blast Furnace and the different content like this, we do it because we care about the games. We want to be able to have those conversations with, like, we'll take our jabs occasionally at folks. We never like our name calling because we still wanted to open the door for a conversation. So be better as a community. I feel like is the overall statement I want to keep emphasizing is just be better. Be the guardians that we want to be. Outshine the opposition. Don't forget, folks, you can listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, all those great places. Also Twitter, Cosmodrome Radio. If you can't find a link for this podcast, if you have no idea where to look, like if you legit just don't know where to listen to us, CosmodromeRadio.com, easiest place to look us up, and you will find all of our links to wherever you want to find us on the interwebs. And we will love talking to you and hearing more about the game and whatnot, and just developing this as a community where we can thrive and have fun topics and stuff like that. But we will catch you folks next week, and we will catch you Starside. Peace out.
Bye. Borealis is the sniper.
Oh my God.